It's nice to see you, Dr. C. How are things going?
They're going pretty well. I'm really glad to help.
Well, I really do appreciate you coming. I know that it's been a couple of years since you've been in school, but a doctoral experience is something that I'm sure no one ever really forgets. So I think you have a lot to share.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, when you had your doctoral experience, what was your goal in getting your PhD to begin with?
Well, honestly, I never intended to get a PhD, but after my master's, I couldn't find a job and I kept taking courses. And one day, my faculty mentor sat me down and said, "You're almost ready to take your qualifying exams. Why don't you just press on and finish your degree?" And I thought, yeah, I could see myself doing that, and I love to teach, and I could see myself teaching. So that really gave me the motivation to continue on. Also, I hung around because I really did enjoy taking classes. I really found classwork stimulating. It was exciting to me to learn new things. And so, I had a lot of motivation to stay and not a lot of motivation to leave unless I could find that perfect job.
Let me ask you, how much time did you end up spending on your studies? Was it what you had anticipated, or did you find you spent more time?
Um, it was pretty much what I anticipated, although probably if I had had more time, I would have spent more time. I think studying is a little like filling a glass of water. Um, I had children, so I had to take care of them first, and so my studying kind of filled up the remaining time. But I didn't feel like I lacked, and I felt like I was more focused in my studies than some students that had more time.
How much time would you say you put into studying each week?
Probably I put somewhere around 15 hours into just my studying,
Wow.
reading and studying. There's a
Wow.
lot of reading.
Wow, 15 hours. That's pretty impressive. Tell me, how much time did you anticipate having for a social life? You say you had children. Did you end up feeling like you had enough time with them? And how much time did you really have with them every week?
Well, I had a lot of time with them because I kind of tried to construct my schedule so I could get them out the door to school, and then I would focus my energies between 9 and about 3 on just teaching and studying and doing coursework. Um, and then I usually was home for dinner. I hardly ever left them alone for dinner. And in terms of free time, I tried to make time on the weekends and definitely in the summer. Usually I wouldn't take classes between mid-June and mid-August, so that gave me a lot of time one-on-one with the kids, and as a group we could do things as a family, so that helped.
Let me ask you, are there any moments that kind of stand out as times when you knew that your children suddenly realized that you were a doctoral student? Or things that stuck out with you, times when you just knew that things would be a lot different in your life with them if you weren't a doctoral student?
Yeah, actually I have good and bad. I had a daughter once who was angry at me and said, "Why are you taking classes? You should be having a job and supporting us." And it gave me an opportunity to explain that this was kind of a long-term investment and that this kind of support I would be able to provide would be better when I was done. On the other hand, my youngest daughter, who was the only one left at home when I finished, when I did my dissertation defense, she came with me and ran my slideshow.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
she was 12 and she thought it was very cool.
Oh, fantastic. A family affair.
Indeed.
Do you think that affected how they view their education? Have they kind of absorbed the same bug to learn that you had?
I think so, yes, although most of them are raising families now, so they're not in school. But I think they appreciate that it takes a lot of work. I think they value study more than they ever would have otherwise and are more motivated to learn on their own. So we all share books, for example. We pass books around our family, but I don't think it would have been quite that way if I hadn't been a student while they were growing up.
Oh, wow. Let me ask you, what did you find most challenging in the process?
Um, The most challenging part for me was always the fear of failure. Every time you would have to write a paper or take a test or walk into a new class, I always had this fear that I wasn't as good as the other students. And so for me, I always had to get over this idea that I wasn't as smart as all the rest of those younger students. But it proved not to be the case, and it did give me a lot of self-confidence.
Were there a lot of other students who were considerably younger or at a different stage? I don't want to say considerably younger, but
Yeah.
who were, finishing college and going straight into their PhDs?
Yeah, actually, there were quite a number of students in my program, and there were only, I think at the time, there were only maybe 5 or 6 of us that were even married. And of those who were married, there were only 2 of us that were quote-unquote older students. And the woman who was the other older student and I have been fast friends ever since.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you were actually interested in the same topics as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Have you done research together since?
We have not. She's gone to East Carolina University, and we still stay in touch, but she's in a school of business now, actually, so doing business learning, and so that's not really my expertise. So we keep in touch, but we haven't done research.
Wow, but lifelong friends, that's really good.
Lifelong friends.
Fantastic. Well, let me ask you then, and this is kind of my last question for you. What did you find most rewarding in the process?
I think most rewarding was the friendships, the confidence, the realization that I love to learn, so it gave me kind of an impetus to keep learning post-degree, that I could read those studies that I thought were so difficult at first, that I would sometimes not think I'd even understood a word, but I realized I can do those things. But I think also it's a level of respect that people give you when you can introduce yourself as doctor. I think that's really a cool thing.
Building on that, and I know I just told you that this is the last question, but I just have to ask you, can you share a story of the first time that someone who was significant to you realized that you had your PhD?
Yeah, I actually was in a group of women, and I remember introducing myself, and these women had just known me just as a woman, another woman, and when I introduced myself and told my story, there were several of them who just hadn't realized. I guess they thought I just was, I don't know, a stay-at-home mom or something, or didn't realize what I had been doing with all my time. And there was both shock and amazement, and that was a little bit gratifying to see that they finally realized that, yeah, I had been working really hard.
So it was noticeably different from your experience while you were a doctoral student.
In some ways, yeah.
When you told people you were a doctoral student, how did they react then?
Mostly with surprise. You don't see a lot of doctoral students who are older. They tend to be younger. But I think that could change in the future, certainly as more women with families seek higher degrees. I hope so.
I hope so too. Thank you so much. Let me ask you, is there anything that you would like to share on your doctoral process? What it was like, how it changed your life, or the experiences that you had that I haven't really asked about?
I guess I just want to say that basically I think every doctoral experience is similar in some ways, but very different, and each student needs to find a schedule and a process of studying that works for them, but the reward is worth it.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. C. I really appreciate you coming today.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
I hope we have a chance to speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you.